Okay, so it's my birthday. It's okay because I celebrate the whole month. If you get as old as me and look this good, you can celebrate the whole month too. And I have a 22-year-old, so I can say that. So my name is Tina Frundt. I'm the executive director and founder of Courtney's House. We're based in Washington, D.C., and we're the only survivor-run organization in our area. I'm a survivor of child sex trafficking here in the United States. I want to quickly say that when I say that, I was doing a speaking engagement, and I do about 200 conferences a year, write all our curriculums and programs, so I'm bored. And so I'm here at this presentation. This woman walks up. She said, I caught the tail end of what you were saying. What country were you trafficked from? And I looked at her, and I looked at her, I'm sorry, what? And she said, oh, I'm sorry, where in Africa were you trafficked from? So I said, I'm from Little Beirut, but they call it Chicago, Illinois. Now it's Chirac. That's where I grew up. So I think the popular misconception is that things happen overseas. To me, that's kind of crazy, because how about this? Crime would never happen in one part of the country and not the other. So clearly, just think about that, right? Just think about crime. Crime doesn't happen in one place and not the other. Don't they rob people in Thailand? Don't they sexually abuse people in Africa? Because they do it everywhere. So it's also unique that Courtney's House, everything we do, is based off of my life. So my trafficking situation started at 9 inside foster care. I was adopted at 12 by a wonderful family that did not traffic me. You always have to say that, because people think trafficking in your whole entire life and your family and everyone was bad. But that's not true with them. Inside of foster care from 9 to 26, there is no golden ticket. That you are 18 years old and they open up a door and say, well, you was free now and life is good. That's not what happens. So it always, really, I don't understand as a survivor how people think that after 18 you don't need services. Don't people get sexually abused and raped every day? Don't they need services after 18 because they were 18, over 18 when it happened? Right? So when you start thinking of things more realistically and not in this bigger picture that we think is further away, it doesn't really make sense. So I hear this word, slavery, and then I hear this word, modern day slavery. So, because it's Black History Month, my birthday, and I got the mic and I can talk about what I want, we're going to talk about what slavery is and trafficking. Now, you didn't call me up when you asked about the transgender population. I didn't get a phone call. Courtney's House works with boys and girls in the transgender population. We're the only ones in the country, because boys were being trafficked right along with me. And it's a different dynamic of control. So quickly, we're going to talk about domestic, U.S. citizen sex trafficking. There are 4 paradigms within that. Pimp control, gang control, family control, and boy/transgender. Do you know what I put in that category? Real question. Do you know why I put in that category? Because each one has a different dynamic of control. So if you ask a boy who his pimp is, the answer is going to be, I don't have a pimp, because it's a different dynamic of control. And each one is set up differently. So what happens is people learn about pimp control, but they miss everything else. They miss family control. Their family's the one selling them. You miss it. We miss gang control because we're not sure how girls are trafficked within the gangs. So because we don't understand those, who knows that? Survivors do, because each dynamic is different. So if you ask a survivor who was labor trafficked, her experience may be different for someone who was domestically sex trafficked. It's going to be different. Each of us have a different life, right? So if your life is not going to be like my life. So I think it's really hard, because here in the U.S. we kind of want to put everything in a blanket and solve it all in one big blanket. But we can't really do that. So as African Americans, it's hard for us. And it's okay, you don't have to say it is, but I know, so I'm going to speak for you today. It's hard for us to put that slavery, that trafficking and slavery is one and the same. It's really difficult for us to kind of put it on there. So I want to break down what that really means. So usually people say trafficking and slavery because you're held against your will, right? And because you're forced to do things that you don't want to do, correct? That's not why I think it's slavery at all. Never mind that pimps, traffickers, one and the same tell you they're your slave master. Never mind that. Let's break this down so you have a better understanding. All the rules under pimp control and gang control trafficking are actually the same exact rules of slavery days. So to fully understand that, let's go back 250 years. 250 years on a plantation. You had the slave master, correct?
Yes.
All right, come on with me, wake up. You had the slave master, correct? All right. Then you also had someone who watched over the slaves, the overseers, who was a slave, correct?
Yes.
Now, was there an application for that? Right, there was no application to pick to be an overseer. Here's the deal. You don't really want to be the overseer. Y'all saw Django? You don't really want to be the overseer. And the reason why you don't is because, hey, how about this? You're on a plantation with 200 of your family members. So you have your family members, other people who were brought there, and none of them your friend. They're not your friend. You have to tell them the songs of freedom to the slave master. You have to say, master, they're trying to plot right now. They leaving. Just want you to know that. So they're not your friend. Not only are you telling them that when slaves leave and run away, who you think gets beat for that? Overseer gets beat. 40 lashes, 60 to 100, they get beat for that. In front of everybody. Now let's jump to fully understand this under a pimp control dynamic, to understand the realities of this. So pimps and traffickers are one and the same, and the young lady before me was right. We don't use the word trafficking because that's a governmental term and a legal term, and we had to learn it. We don't use these words. We use the real words as pimp. So it's pimp in Korea, it's pimp in Africa, it's pimp in Poland. That's the real term. So pimps and traffickers are one and the same. But that being said, on the pimp control dynamic, a pimp has what he calls a stable of girls. Do you know what a real stable is? What's a stable? Stables where horses are, correct? Okay, let's go jump back 250 years ago. Where were the slave records kept? Slave, you are the first person. And I was in Brooklyn at the Historical Society, and they didn't get this right. This is true. The slave records were kept in the stables. That's where they kept all the records. So, that's interesting within itself. Then under control dynamic, a stable is girls. And then the records were kept with a stable. But let's keep going and see how this works out. Pimps have something. They are called a bottom. And we're not going to use it as part of that, a bottom. So there's no application to be a bottom. The bottom collects the other money, has to train. Every girl and boy has to train though. So you have to train the other girls because you don't have a choice. You have to collect the money from them and give it to the pimp. You're the one. Sometimes you get to sleep next to him. Sometimes you can pull the car around. But when they don't come with their money, you get beat in front of everybody. Now what's the application process to become a bottom? Do you know? Because there is none. I said they pick you. Now wait a minute. They picked the overseer too 250 years ago, correct? So how are they picking these individuals? Do you know? So grandma used to say years ago, grandma would tell you that you're so smart, you're stupid. You don't even see the worth of your smartness. You ever heard that? Well, how about this? That's because the people they pick are so strong, and let's break this down. We're on a plantation. You can have family of members, so maybe it's one slave master and his family, and 200 slaves. In theory, you can all get together and jump and take it over. You can do it. That never happened. Why do you think that never happened? Divide and conquer is a very powerful thing. So let's jump back into our stable that the pimp has. You pick the strongest girl or boy. You always pick the strongest because they don't understand how strong you are. You don't know that you're strong, but you could. Tell everybody and move them out. So I'm going to pick the strongest person, then I'm going to divide them. Now, if we're all on the plantation together, how come we're not all working together to get out? The African Americans, you ever heard about the crab in the barrel? Because that's what happens. So the mentality of, if I have chaos amongst all of you, see, and I put you all against each other to bring in money, then you're not paying them much attention to me, are you? No, because you're fighting amongst yourself. Same thing on the plantation. Because you're fighting amongst yourself. So you're not even paying attention to how you could all come together and get rid of me. Now let's think about this again. This thing, the mentality of it. So never would I ever compare myself to Harriet Tubman. But I will tell you that we use the Harriet Tubman model. Harriet Tubman was a slave. We all know that. Not only was she a slave, she was smart. She tried to go the first way, the anger way. When you're like, I can strike, forget it, I'll fight it. It didn't work so much. Then she paid attention to detail. And she figured out a way how not only she could be free, because she could have got herself free and never came back. Never risked being dead and killed for helping others. She could have did it, but she didn't. She went back because she tasted freedom and she understood that she wanted others to understand it too. But how about this? She didn't know what to eat, what clothes to wear. It's different when you're on a plantation. They give you what they want to. You're not really in the outside world. You're in a controlled setting. So with that being said, she had to do certain things. She had to teach people what it would be like not to live on a plantation. It didn't matter if they were over 18. It didn't matter if they were male, female, how they identified as, none of that. It's because they weren't free. That's what she was focused on, their freedom. Giving them the tools that they needed to live off the plantation. Because choices was hard when you never had a choice. How would you know? How would you know how to cook, prepare meals for yourself, that you can have other things other than scrapes? You wouldn't know that. So what she did was educate people on how to live in this square world. Because see, that's what the world is when you're not in the life anymore. It's this square world. It's this world that we don't fully understand. And someone has to help you understand. But the most important part of what Harriet Tubman did is that she had to help transition a mindset out. And that's what we do at Courtney's house. This is not about me rescuing you. We don't even use the word rescue. Because you can rescue a body, but not your mind. I can't rescue your mind. I give you the tools that you need to help transition your mindset out of the life. I can do that. But I can't rescue your mind. Because if you do it on your own, not help you through the path, then you'll go back and you'll help others too. So why it's different of what we do? It's because it's based off of my life, my whole life. And I got 20 minutes, so trust me. If you ask me, how'd you get out? We'll be here all day. So I'm 40, that is my whole life. And I don't think people understand that part. It's never the one thing that makes you change. It wasn't the one thing that made people want to leave the plantation. It wasn't the one thing. It was the 868 things that make you want to change. You just get tired of being sick and tired. That's your answer. You're tired. You don't even know how to verbalize how tired you are. You're tired. So right here today, 250 years later, girls and boys, myself, was bought and sold too. 10,000, 2,000, 3,000, same thing. Right here in the United States. It's been going on for years. We name it something different, we turn our heads, we say it's a choice, but we don't dig deeper to get a better answer. We like to put things in a box. We like to say, it's mostly kids who run away, it's mostly kids who are poor, it's mostly kids who are African American. How about this? When buyers call up for a girl or boy, they don't say, I really want the poor one. Where's she at? They don't say that, because that's not what this is about. See, this is about manipulation. I can manipulate someone with a lot of money, because they always missing something. You know the one thing they're missing? Not the things, they think they're missing love. So what if somebody comes in and just gives them all the attention they were missing? What if someone goes to college somewhere else, which we do have girls who went to college and was recruited on campus? What about that? So I know we want to put everything in a bubble and say this is what happens to this. It's easy to manipulate kids because kids don't think they're being manipulated. That's it. Remember when you were a teenager, 13, like 2 years ago? Remember when I have a 16-year-old, and that's just her name right now, 16. And it's because they know everything, they're psychic. You're like, how you know before I know? I don't even know what I was saying. Well, that's why they're easy to manipulate. That's why. That's your answer. Is that answer not good enough? Because if we start really understanding that, then we'll give all kids from every economic stance knowing about what's going on in trafficking. We'll give them all the information, not just a set population. There are different ways you enter, different ways you get out. But for me, why my 40th birthday is so important to me is because I didn't think I lived past 30. Because I never planned a life past 30. That's it, that's all. Shoot, I was pushing it with that. So to me, every day that I'm alive and every struggle that I went through when we should celebrate the year, that's how I feel about it. Because it was a very hard struggle. So for our survivors, the reason why we're a drop-in center, and 44% of all of our kids, their parents referred. So we have the only parent support group in the country. The reason why is because everything, there was no services for me. I didn't have anything, nothing. There's nothing to tell you about because I didn't have it. And it's real hard when you don't know how to make a change and you're trying to do it on your own. So it took 10 years to get to this point because you got to do a lot of trial and fail. No, I was not addicted to drugs. That always surprises people, but me and my kids are like, oh, goodness, that was a good thing. Drugs was never my thing. My addiction is the addiction that all of our kids have. It's money. Because this whole thing is dealt off of money. So you hear 12 and 13-year-olds coming out of the light and they say, I need a job. Because the world moves with money and that's all you know is money. So that's a big addiction because trust me, he'll do anything for money. That's an addiction. And so we transition a mindset. Why do our kids come to our support groups and get mad when we have to cancel due to something? Do you know why? I mean, it amazes me that they all want to come. This is how I pitch our support groups to our kids. Have you ever walked in a room or you went to the store and the first thing you did was scan the room and you said, I'm getting money off of him and $600 off of him, $200 off of him, and this is what I'm going to do? I've never ran into one kid that said, no, I would do that. They all say, yes. How'd you know and how can I change it? Because that's the real issue. That's the real issue. It is your mind that slips back into it. You ain't got to love it at all. You hate it. It's the money you chase because you learned and you thought that if I told you that I was 9 years old, that means I never had consensual sex. That means that 99% of all of our kids never had consensual sex. That's important because you don't know what your body's worth. Stop telling me because you don't know. We have to teach them that so they do understand. You will never know that if it was always taken away from you. So today, I really want you to understand what slavery is. This is not modern day to me at all. This is slavery and that's it, that's all, because all the rules are the same. Just a different year, but all the rules are the same. So why can I help so many that we have? Because all the rules are the same. Just a different year. Because you got to catch up. So as America, we have to catch up to the traffickers because they're way ahead of me. And the only way I'm able to know this is because I had to go through it. So thank you so much for coming here today and celebrating my birthday.